Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 271. What happens when you finally believe you're worthy? Well, welcome. This month, I want to focus all on our self-worth, our self-care, and taking some time just for you. I know, it's a crazy time of year. And you're probably thinking, when, Mary, would I do that? Well, you don't need to take big amounts of time, just whatever you can here and there, just so at least you show yourself that you matter, that your stress level matters, and that you can trust the process enough to take some moments here and there to show yourself that you care about you. But have you ever really stopped to think about how much you truly value yourself? It's easy to overlook the signs that you might not fully believe in your own worth, because they often show up in such, subtle and everyday ways that we don't notice them. Like maybe you hesitate to ask for help. Maybe you just assume you'll be a burden. Maybe you find yourself constantly putting others' needs before your own, or you're quick to downplay your successes because you don't really feel like you've earned them. You attribute the success to someone or something else. Now, these small, seemingly harmless habits are often rooted in a deeper feeling of unworthiness. And that is a belief that you're not really deserving of good things or respectful treatment, even though if someone confronted you on that, you would shut that down immediately and say they're crazy. So how can you tell if this is something you're really struggling with underneath? Well, here are a few clues. You have a hard time saying no, even when you're overwhelmed and have no right saying yes. You might stay in relationships where your needs aren't met or where you feel underappreciated. You could even avoid opportunities that excite you because you're afraid you're not good enough to go after them. So in this episode, we're going to explore what happens when you finally shift that mindset, when you finally decide to believe that you're worthy. So we'll paint a picture of life after this transformation and show how your relationships, your career, and your personal growth can really flourish when you begin to genuinely embrace your self-worth. But if you need some help with this, if this seems too overwhelming to imagine doing, make sure you sign up for a power hour with me. I have some openings coming up in the next 30 to 60 days. And there's a link in the show notes to connect with me right there. I also have a mini course ebook around boundaries that will be really helpful. And that has a lot of great information to get you started on the boundary work. There's many podcasts and worksheets in there and things to get you really thinking. Because that's where we have to start if we're thinking about our self-worth is boundaries. And if you need more in-depth work on facing some of this stuff, consider taking the work a bit deeper and grab my big course about using your voice. There are 12 online modules, there's a coaching support group, and individual support from me. So there's a lot of resources that I have that can help you no matter where you are in the process. Okay, so let's get into it. So what happens when you finally believe you're worthy? Like, what does this really look like? I think you understand conceptually what I'm talking about. What does this look like in real life? So what would your life look like if you really believed you were worthy of good things? Okay. When you carry that mindset, I think it ripples through every area of your life because it can't not. So what would your life look like if you really believed you were worthy of good things? Well, it wouldn't look like this. It wouldn't be where your relationships feel one-sided or unfulfilling because you struggle to advocate for your needs. Or at work where you've been holding yourself back from pursuing opportunities, or maybe even a raise or fair compensation because you're afraid you're not good enough. You probably have a million other ways you self-sabotage that we don't even have time to cover here. Maybe your self-care even takes a back seat because you feel secretly guilty prioritizing yourself over others. Well, in this episode, we're going to explore what happens when you shift this mindset, because it is a mindset. When you start to decide that you believe that you're worthy. So we know what the concept here is, but I want to talk about for a moment, what does this look like in real life? And as you listen to these, I want you to think about your own life and see if any of this resonates or feels familiar. All right, so let's talk about Sarah. So Sarah constantly doubts her partner's love. She avoids bringing up her needs. She doesn't want to be a burden. And so what she does is she overcompensates by giving too much. This helps her to rationalize and ignore her partner's lack of care. And yet she is seething underneath and feels resentful all the time and frustrated. But after Sarah starts really believing that she deserves better, she starts expressing her needs more calmly and confidently to her partner. And her partner, she's lucky in this case, begins to reciprocate more openly. And they can have a deeper connection and have hard conversations and really talk about things. What matters here is Sarah realizes she doesn't have to earn love. That in healthy relationships, it's given freely. And relationships are with people on your level. And they're mutually beneficial. What about friends with boundaries? So before, James felt drained by a friend who would only call him to vent, would never reciprocate support when James needed it, and he felt pretty unimportant, used sometimes, because the focus was only on his friend's crisis du jour. But when James started working on himself, he started to set clear boundaries and gently lets his friend know that, hey man, he needs balance in their friendship. He notices healthier, more uplifting relationships forming in his life. And yes, sometimes he has to let go of those who take advantage of him, but he's feeling so much better about himself. What about advocating for success? So before, Maria would undercharge for her freelance work because she was afraid of rejection if she asked for what she thought she truly was worth. And so, of course, she feels overworked and undervalued and burnt out. But after Maria started working on what she truly deserved and setting boundaries around that, she started to believe in her expertise and started confidently quoting fair rates. She was anxious at first, but then she started feeling really good about it. And what's funny is her clients respect her more. And now she attracts more higher quality opportunities that actually allow her to work less and earn more. Imagine that. What about taking a risk? So before, David's dreams of applying for promotion were just dreams because he never thinks he's ready or good enough. And so this just keeps him stuck and it keeps him from trying out to see what happens. But after he did some work in coaching around his self-worth, he decided to just take a shot, to try anyway, to trust his skills. So what was really cool is he not only got the job, but then he realized, wow, capable of a lot more than I imagined. What about self-care? So Emma fills her calendar with everyone else's stuff, what other people need, all the things that are going on, and she rarely takes any time for herself. So of course, she starts feeling the consequences of that, and two of them being burnt out and resentful. But after Emma starts working on herself, she starts to say no when needed, and little by little starts carving out some time for things that she loves, like yoga and painting and going for walks. And what's interesting is her energy and her happiness increase. So guess what? This has been making her a better friend, a better partner, and a better family member. So the irony is the more you work on yourself, the more everyone around you benefits. What about healing old wounds? So Josh has been avoiding therapy because he's always believed like I should just suck it up and deal with it and get through it. And yet he carries so much shame from his childhood and he really feels stuck. But after doing some work, Josh decides he's worth investing in and he begins therapy. Over time, he notices his anxiety is less and less and his ability to enjoy life is really improving. So there's a ripple effect of self-worth because it impacts everything. So when we have increased confidence, we have greater self-trust and greater self-love. We actually have better opportunities. And we see the opportunities and we don't push them away. We're more open to trying new things. We're more expansive. Healthy boundaries help us create better and deeper relationships. And I think they're usually with healthier people where you can both feel safe and you enjoy growth and you both connect and you feel authentic and you feel so much more alive in your relationships. And emotional growth encourages resilience and joy, and you trust yourself more. And that helps you start to feel like you can handle life just a little bit better than before. And then the people around you benefit. They are actually able to connect with more of your authentic self. So then that allows them to do the same. It helps them feel safe in connection with you. They have greater trust in you because your insides match your outsides more. You seem more alive. You're not hiding. You're not hiding behind, let's just call them the lies that you've been telling yourself and telling other people. And they're lies because they were never really true about you and what you deserved and what you're capable of. So now that I've got you thinking about some of this, I want you to take a few moments to reflect. If you're driving, if you're walking or whatever, I know you can't write stuff down, but just trust what comes up for you. If you are in a space where you can write, that's lovely. Write whatever comes to mind. Don't PC it, don't think about it, just write whatever comes to mind. Okay. Number 1. What would you do differently if you believed you were worthy? What would you do differently if you believed you were worthy? Number 2, what have you been telling yourself that you don't deserve? Whether you're realizing it or not, what have you been telling yourself and showing yourself that you don't deserve? And number 3, what would it feel like to truly give yourself what you deserve? What would it feel like to truly give yourself what you deserve? Okay, so what came up for you? Did you freeze? Did no ideas come up? Did lots of things come up? What do you think about your answers? Now, this isn't a time to be hard on yourself. It's actually a time to be very compassionate with yourself and very honest. And think about your answers and think about what would you, even if it's just one thing that you could start doing differently, what would you start doing? What would you stop doing? So here are some small steps I want you to think about to start embracing your self-worth. If you've already been working on this, that's cool. We can always use a refresher and a reminder to stay on the path and keep going. So here are some small steps that you can start taking. And these are by no means all of them. You might even have some better ones than this, and that's fine. All that matters is that you're doing something. So the first one is I want you to practice imagining saying no to things that don't serve you. Just imagine first what it might be like to do that. Visualize yourself saying no to things that don't serve you. And yes, you'll be anxious, but I also want you to note how good it feels at the same time. Maybe it's piling things on your plate. Maybe it is saying no to taking care of someone else who doesn't reciprocate. What are some things that you could say no to that no longer serve you? And maybe they served you in the past, and that's okay. The next thing you can do is take a moment to celebrate your little successes. I don't care how small they are. Every time you check that thing off the list, every time you're brave, every time you affirm loving things to yourself in the bathroom mirror, every time you practice some self-care, every time you set that boundary you were terrified to set, every time you said no to yourself about playing small, whatever it is. Every time you celebrate, and this is why you want to do this, you are acknowledging yourself. This is not blowing up your ego. You're acknowledging that you followed through on something that you said you wanted to do. And it doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is what it symbolizes. So, for example, if one of your things about deserving is you haven't been very self-disciplined and you really want to work on that, okay, so let's say you really practice some great self-discipline today. Well, you can feel really good about that because of what it means. Because you being more disciplined, I know, creates more confidence in yourself and more self-trust. And when you have those things, you're going to believe that you deserve more. Another thing you can do is really work on surrounding yourself with people who uplift and respect you. Like, spend more time with those people. I know there's probably people in your life who don't, but how much time and energy are you giving those relationships versus the ones where people can really show up for you and you can really show up for them? And then finally, I want you to really map out the vision of what you'd love your life to look like, regardless of where you are now. It means dreaming for a moment, and most importantly, writing down why you want this in each area of your life, like maybe your health, your career, and your relationships. What would you like it to look like? So this is really, if you're just starting to work on self-esteem and self-respect, is a great way to get started on what you might be doing in your life that shows you and others really that you really don't think you're worthy, that you're not worthy of good things, of respect, of more money, or being happy, or being proud of yourself. I mean, it's whatever, fill in the blank. And really challenge where that comes from and how you want to start changing that. Now, if you need some support, join the Facebook group. Link is in the show notes. We're there every Wednesday night talking about this stuff. That way you're not alone and you have support. Sign up for a power hour. Take one of the courses where there's group coaching and you can get support there, because I think it's really important to get the healthy mirroring around what you truly deserve. You might need people to tell you over and over again every week, like, yeah, you do deserve this. Of course you do. Because you alone might not be able to convince yourself, if that makes sense. You know, I think about it. If people struggle with deserving, someone gave them those messages early in life. And then also they probably put people in their life later on that repeated those messages. So you might have people in your life now that don't give you the vibe like you deserve better. Half the time because they know if they did, you would walk. But so we need people then today to change that for us and to remind us over and over again why we deserve better and why they believe that and why that's true and why that won't change so that you can heal that wounded part of you. So today we talked about how your life might change if you truly believe that you are worthy of love and success and respect and all the good stuff. And then we looked at that transformative power of embracing your self-worth. We talked about how those feelings of undeservingness are really subtly shaping your relationships, not only with yourself, but with others. How it impacts your career. How it impacts everything. And so we talked about examples of people's lives changing when they made those choices to start believing in themselves. So looking at your self-worth in your everyday decisions is a great place to start. And if you've ever felt like you've been holding yourself back, this is where you can imagine doing something better. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope something resonated with you that can be helpful. If you don't already get the newsletter, hit me up at ownitpowercast.com. All the other information is in the show notes. And reach out and message me if you have any questions. I return all of my messages. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.